Today's video will begin in Indiana, and we'll finish off in Tasmania. Boom, 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 boom. That's how it starts, and then the scream. And I only fear God. My body is disposable, and I'll give it back when I'm done. Welcome. Here I want to look at the Holiday Park ruins. I want to thank the commenter that shared this with me today. Absolutely amazing. And one of the more ridiculous narratives that I've ever heard, and I look forward to sharing it with you today and getting your thoughts. They are located in Indianapolis, Indiana, and this article that I'm gleaning was written in 2016. A little things to do in Indiana, and I think we'll do it from the comfort of our home. Let's just imagine we are innocent and naive and found ourselves here. What do they have to say about this? Holiday Park ruins offer a history lesson, a new spot to explore. A new spot. Very exciting. For a score of years, 2 decades, the ruins were the iconic part of Holiday Park that were fenced off, sealed from the public. Alrighty, this is beginning to sound pretty ridiculous with this whole 4 thing, and that it's fenced off from the public. The ruins were installed in 1950 and were functional until the 1990s, when they were ultimately fenced off and separated. What? The ruins were installed, the ruins were functional, and in the 90s were fenced off, overgrown with grass. The ruins have always been there, but they haven't been accessible to the public until recently. Okay, but first, a quick history lesson. According to the Holiday Park website, New York's first skyscraper, the St. Paul Building. And here's the St. Paul Building. Built in 1898, designed by the same architectural sculptor who created the exterior of the Metropolitan Museum of Art, were 3 massive statues made of Indiana limestone. The statues were called the Races of Man and represented the African American, Asian, and Caucasian races laboring together as they appeared to hold the skyscraper on their backs. In the 1950s, building owners decided to build a modern skyscraper on the site and sought a new home for the sculptures. Sounds like they just removed the facades. A competition among cities was held, and Indianapolis presented a plan to place them in Holiday Park, and the rest is history. So they're telling us these ruins were originally part of this St. Paul building. I'm not sure which part. Maybe down here at the bottom. It could be these 3 sections. That's the only thing that looks like 3 men holding any part up. And they're telling us they moved it to this park. The core of Holiday Park is alive again, thanks to a $3.2 million project spearheaded by the Friends of Holiday Park, but also a commitment from the mayor, Joe Hogsett, who embraced the resurgence of the ruins. The ruins actually serve as an ideal starting point for visitors. Unbelievable. Now, you probably know what I think about this story and these ruins. Come on, but I don't want to say it. Here, after this $3.2 million whatever, for what, I don't know, we actually see less than we did in the past. Here we can see the old statues, and here it seems like statues have been removed. Perhaps just the statues on one side. This just doesn't make any sense. As if these ruins came from New York. They actually applied or entered a contest to receive these ruins. And really, the whole story just started off pretty fishy. If you remember, they were sealed off, overgrown with grass. The ruins have always been there, but weren't accessible to the public. And I don't know if we have any viewers that are from the area pre-1950. Does anyone have any photos, or did you visit this place pre-1950? Just as we learned recently with the Palace of Fine Arts in San Francisco, in which the narrative tells us it was completely demolished in the 60s and rebuilt. We had countless comments in the comment section from viewers who lived in the neighborhood of the palace and attested that there was never a demolition and reconstruction. And perhaps that's why I enjoy these more recent narratives in which people are still alive to attest to the rewriting of our history. In the case of this one, I don't know. What I do know is it seems pretty ridiculous to imagine that this was taken apart in New York City and rebuilt here in Indiana. Pretty stupid. But please let me know what you think. I've been wanting to do this recording for weeks, but I'm gonna keep it short, or Chief will be mad. I'd like to take a little look at Tasmania today. Somebody recently told me there were some interesting ruins that could be seen from Google, and I've made a video on New Zealand and how we can see these old world ruins dating from a very early time period. But apparently we have the same story going on here in Tasmania. And apparently the comment I received was telling me these ruins were out on one of these islands. Very remote part of Tasmania, and Tasmania is already very remote. And here we go, right away with artificial coastlines and what seems to be a site where something was once sitting. But I'm not sure. This will be my first little exploration into this area. And clearly signs of past dwellers of this land. Really looking like a nice and remote part of the realm. And here we see a lot of activity. And people make use of all this surveying, set up farms, as we see here in Buckland, but not able to hide the past. Whatever they did in the past to survey these lines seem to have left a sort of electromagnetic field behind, where vegetation doesn't grow in this footprint. But again, not what I was looking for. The commenter said we have areas out in the middle of nowhere with Romanesque archways and all the classic architecture that we see everywhere. And already, just at a quick glance, I can see that this land has been worked in the past. In this area, dating back to BC, we're told, a band of Tasmanian Aboriginal people settled in what is now the Hobart area. A very sad story, ending with the eradication of the entire people. Here we can see a map of Tasmania charted out in the 17th century. And if you ask me, this is very advanced cartography in this early time period in this very remote island. Just as all the works of the past are too incredible to accept they were built by people in this early time period, so are all of these maps. It's one thing to sail a boat, but to chart out such perfection without having a view from above is too impressive for me to attribute to a primitive people in the 17th century. However, I do believe a people did make these maps, but a very advanced people, the same ones that built everything we see of value in this realm. And really beginning with the Dutch East India Company, following with the British East India Company in 1793. It seems they are the creators of a great many of nations. These two companies roll in with their charters and establish not only trade, but government. And I think anyone who's done research into our past runs into these guys. And they're just really kicking ass in Tasmania, moving as fast as all the nations in the realm, building cathedrals, having wars, setting up government houses. Here we can see one in 1805, of course, just the type of government house we would expect in one of the most remote parts of the realm, a castle. And here we can see a depiction of the laborers that would have built all of this. Here's a look at the convict ships in 1877 that we're told would have been carrying convicted felons to the place of exile. And at the same time, only a year later, they opened the Royal Tasmanian Botanical Gardens. In 1832, the Cascade Brewery is established in South Hobart. It's the oldest operating brewery in Australia. There we go, on this little island. Of course, a 7-story brewery. Absolutely essential to have 7 stories before the elevator for your brewery in Tasmania. Here we can see their street lights in 1826, a courthouse. Here's a look at downtown Hobart, and just everything going so perfectly and smoothly in establishing this island of Tasmania, showing the same narrative and architecture, which leads me to believe that there's going to be a lot of ruins in this area. The cleaning and sanitizing of history will have been very sloppy in this region, where very little eyes are looking. And here I want to show you a picture of Tasmania in ruins. And this is a Tasmanian tiger that has now become extinct. Absolutely beautiful. Here's a better picture, seeming to have the head and feet of a dog, and the rest of the body resembles a tiger. And this is one in a zoo. I believe there are some, or were some, in captivity. And here's some more ruins in Tasmania. Castles everywhere, random staircases, a historic doorway found in a field here. So why even talk about architects in the old world? Why not just tell us prisoners built everything, all throughout? Because as I mentioned before, the writers were very sloppy with this very most outer landmass. And this is not the place to share this fact, but an excellent channel called Flat Fact made a video some time ago, and it's been on my list of things to share, and I just seem to get lost in other things. But what she was pointing out is that most of the arches, especially the monumental ones, freestanding, appear to line up with the east and the west, so that at a particular time, one could calculate the solstice and other events using these natural keepers of time. And so the idea is that the sun at a specific day would rise right in the center of this portal. And I'm absolutely blown away by all these ruins. Just scratching the surface today, and I'm pretty overwhelmed. We have all the signs here in Tasmania, as anywhere else. Mud floods, buildings built by an unqualified people in an early time period, and I'm sure the repeated narrative would go on. Insane asylums, orphans, and probably even a World's Fair in here. Overall, I think it's been a pretty fruitful exploration, and I look forward to hearing your comments and digging into this a little more. This is 3 days later, but for you, the next moment. And there's about 500 mind-blowing churches in Tasmania. And I think it'll require a whole separate video, but I just wanted to show you. Most of them built, as we can see here, 1872 and 1863. 1843, opened in 1866, 1838, 1858, and every single one having brick, and really no big deal, the same architecture we see all throughout the realm. It's just here we happen to be in Tasmania. Pretty incredible for this remote area. And it goes on, and it actually took me a very, very long time to scroll through all of these churches. Again, I'm only at number 39, 40, 41, and there's about 500 of them. So this will absolutely require another video, but very, very telling and remarkable just to see how much there actually is to explore in this area. And I want to thank everyone that supports this channel. And I think that's it for today. Be sure to check out my coffee on Amazon, my favorite blend for the last 25 years. And I thank you for joining me today. Do have a blessed day. Please like, comment, and subscribe.